The official story of Jeffrey Epstein is a distraction. His predator-class ideological clones are planning World War III as we speak, not a lone predator, a private island, and unspeakable crimes. A vast network of BNI, Brith, ADL, and 1,000 smaller Zionist groups you can even name. Epstein, Ghislaine, Robert Maxwell were not acting alone. As Cynthia McKinney, James Traficant, Lyndon LaRouche have spoken out, there is layers to violating our democracy, rigging our government. Zionists are all key players in a vast network, redistricting, funneling money, sabotaging patriots, shutting down news stories, installing loyal hounds to the old money, designed to compromise the world's most powerful people. Before there was an Israel, there was 1,000 years of British banking, a conspiracy of millions that spans the Mideast, Europe, and age of transatlantic slavery. This wasn't just about personal depravity, it was institutions of demonic bankers, spreading plagues and selling children to the elite for centuries. It was a sophisticated blackmail operation with roots in serving the ruling class perversion going back to toppled dynasties and funding both sides of conflict to buy the ruins for pennies. Weaponizing victims to control politicians, scientists, and business leaders. Poking the chest of future kings, they care not who rules when they control the fiat currency. The real story is about the architecture of power, of banking, of profiteers of 9/11s, of the dirty wars of Henry Kissinger, the evil schemes of the robber barons and Rockefellers, a system that used Epstein as a front, yachts full of hungry girls being sodomized to keep the bottom line of G4S, Zim Shipping, Lucky Larry Silverstein, Larry Ellison push into Hollywood as a CIA contractor, and all the old money ghouls you can't even name, to collect compromat and steer global agendas. Install CIA and MI6 frontmen like Bezos, Musk, Bill Gates and Zuck, little shivering snakes who act as frontmen for enormous crimes against the Constitution and Bill of Rights. Figures like Les Wexner, Epstein's billionaire patron, was just the one who is out in the open. There are multitudes of middle managers, assistants, and hedge fund conspirators who could use some visits from Luigi's admiring public. AIPAC and ADL provided the wealth and legitimacy that allowed the operation to thrive in plain sight. This was a fusion of private money and intelligence objectives, old boy networks that predate the State of Israel and Federal Reserve Act, using business as a cover for illicit influence. An octopus of tentacles in every layer of the rigged game, the network was built to last, its dark limo tint and high-rise lofts engineered to keep those benefiting from being eyed by snipers or lone vigilantes working to protect our children. Synagogue of Satan, Star of Remphan, Tabernacle of Moloch has been compromising generations of Christians, using the Schofield Antichrist network to embolden the henchmen, protected by monopolies, Hollywood, two-party system, lawyers, financiers, and PR specialists. It's not just about one man's crimes, we don't even have proof Epstein died. He could have just as likely flashed a Masonic Mudra gang sign at the hypnotized cops busy counting their payment. As a helicopter landed on the roof, taking the frontman of the ADL back to his island, monsters preying bus stations have nothing on a system of organized corruption masquerading as high society. The focus on Epstein's personal evil is a distraction. COVID was a way to limit what you could say about the infrastructure surrounding him, puppets installed to keep our money flowing to the Ashkenazi war in Ukraine and Gaza. Distracts from the real question, how do these criminals keep getting caught and still benefit? On 9/11s, the people arrested were not Arabs. They went on Israeli TV once released to brag about it. Sivan Kurzberg, Paul Kurzberg, Oded Elner, Omer Marmari, Yaron Shmuel, who were arrested planting devices on the George Washington Bridge and Lincoln Tunnel. Local cops' careers ended for asking questions. To understand the true story, think about why The Sound of Freedom ended, leading you to believe the head of a human trafficking empire was some poor Colombian, not owners of global shipping or politicians with diplomatic immunity to move flights full of missing children from ICE detention. We must look past the headlines into Project Censored reporting of Lee Camp, Abby Martin, Chris Hedges, Sabby Sabs, Norman Finkelstein, Miko Peled, Gabor Mate, Gideon Levy, and into the machinery of power that cripples our elections, keeps us in Israel wars, and putting poison in the food we feed our children. This is the story of a network you know the name of, but you can't even quote what Christ said about the false Jews and synagogue of Satan. Epstein, or his Mossad compatriots, not just singular monsters. Their entitlement and impunity goes into every level of govt and business. The real power behind Epstein's operation isn't just shadowy intelligence agencies you can name, but thousands of private war-for-profit firms just below the surface. It's powerful lobbying groups hiding in plain sight. Local cops trained in Israel on how to hide signs of organ harvesting, how to torture people to death and hide it from medical examination. Private spy ring organizations like Psi Group, Cambridge Analytica, Atlantic Council, Project for a New American Century, Council on Foreign Relations, Aegis, Aggregate IQ, Archimedes Group, BAE Systems, Booz Allen Hamilton, Control Risks Group, Emmer Data Limited, Fusion GPS, Hacklead and Company, JIS, Kroll Inc., NSO Group of Israel, Oxford Analytica of the UK, Pinkerton National Detective Agency, SB International Inc. and Stratfor openly shape US policy, using shadowy spy rings, private data collection, sinister campaign donations and media influence to silence dissent. Their strength lies in making certain topics untouchable, ensuring politicians comply, switch their stance, pass runner bills odious to the Constitution, or face career-ending backlash. Within this environment, Epstein's blackmail operation was more than a tool of Netanyahu, Likud, and the Rothschild bankers to enforce loyalty and control. This plan goes back centuries, and this is just the barest glimpse into the depravity of the moneyed class. Major donors like Alex Karp and tech titans like Peter Thiel connect the worlds of finance, intelligence, and lobbying. The network blends old money, new tech, and ideological zeal, all working to maintain a specific world order. High-profile figures, lawyers, politicians, even former heads of state move seamlessly between these circles, reinforcing the system. The result, a formidable infrastructure where open political influence is backed by covert threats, keeping power tightly in check, one dead girl at a time, one staged suicide or downed plane. They can funnel profits to their guys as easily as readers in Hollywood can rework your script to go to their guys, hacks who surf the fad of an invisible glass wall to benefit Nosferatu. This network's power depends on suppressing dissent and controlling the narrative. Critics of endless wars or foreign policy orthodoxy are smeared, censored, and marginalized by a coordinated media and political machine. Secret deals, secret oaths, watched over by hawkish goons who smile from artificial plastic faces, rhinoplasty and capped teeth. Independent journalists and non-interventionist politicians are sidelined, while lobbyists and insiders enforce the status quo while we are corralled by militarized police, persistent aerial surveillance, generations of invasive tech, and killed by AI GMOs that deny coverage automatically by a system of unlimited medical profit. Carefully curated images and celebrity associations distract the public, worried about what's kosher or dropping Yiddish slang to sound like a sophisticated Manhattanite turning politics into a spectacle, promoting toxic culture, dividing us like cattle into metal cows for the throat-slitting machine and hiding the real levers of control, of blackmail, of threatening gang stalking, the same tactics that protected Epstein and all his friends. Everyone he ever shook hands with should have years in a dim cell. AIPAC and the ADL discrediting victims, silencing reporters, spy cell perverts in tech installing bathroom cameras and microphones in every device, are used to protect the system itself. Anti-Semitism and blood, libel the key words to stifle any conversation. Thousands of Israelis willing to quietly inform their shadowy masters if someone is doing unauthorized speaking. The goal, frame the story to shield the powerful, keep an artificial ruling class of Hollywood nepotism, of fashion, of spies in film festivals and sitting next to you on flights and in bathroom stalls to make sure you are scared of speaking, and isolate accusers. Spy on whistleblowers, bait and create news frenzies to distract from the real news stories buried. By understanding this mechanism, child abuse, secret cameras, honey traps, secret oaths beyond run-of-the-mill masonry or Bohemian Grove, Moloch ceremonies, we see how silencing critics and protecting criminals serve the same agenda, protecting vivisection of missing children, hundreds of thousands on our Mexican border and in Gaza. It's about maintaining an infrastructure of control, from low-key synagogues in the San Fernando Valley to high-profile networks of Rabbi Shmuley, host meetings of Zionist war hawks, Heritage Foundation, Jewish Institute for National Security of America, Institute for the Study of War, the Zionist Advocacy Center, Center for Strategic and International Studies, the Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security, International Institute for Strategic Studies, Misgav Institute, Chatham House, Netanyahu's Unit for Settlement Gaza Strip Sterile Zone, Begin Sadat Center for Strategic Studies that can't survive real scrutiny. Kushner running the White House on behalf of Saudi snakes who have journalists vivisected while watching on Israeli spy technology. The image becomes reality, goat-faced, important men tricking young girls into Manhattan lofts and in arranged marriages with Eastern Europe and spy rings, and the truth is buried. Watch The Lobby USA and look into the domestic terror. Look into spying app act.il to see how Israel tricks high school kids on birthright to coming back as junior informants to serve Israel. The Epstein saga reveals a global infrastructure of organized crime. Zionism is Murder Inc., a continuation of Prohibition-era sex and drug trafficking, now it's nuclear technology, Hollywood and corporate espionage, malicious code connecting power centers from Manhattan, South Florida to Tel Aviv. This network fuses finance, intelligence, and lobbying jet set, creates a cesspool of artificially created billionaire heads of tech, Halo suit actors, to keep your eyes off the CIA in-Q-Tel money. DARPA seeding of technology to compromise leaders. Make sure federal appointments are carefully controlled to never speak about dancing Israelis, black markets of organ harvest, controlling elections with slime-ridden diner parties of the elite. There must have been a similar powerlessness in the weeks leading to Bastille Day, and promote endless wars. Keep the American public in debt, in division, in chaos, uninformed, unable to travel or do much more than scratch out a meager living. Its goal, keep itself in power no matter who's in office. Project for a New American Century, Carlyle Group, Bilderberg, Palantir, Black Cube, shadowy machinery of ruling class organized crime. Epstein was just a middle manager for a predatory Wall Street class that takes its orders from London and Tel Aviv in this multinational enterprise of corruption. We must think beyond Mossad, Shin Bet, 8200 to consider MI6 and Saudi intelligence as likely beneficiaries. Real accountability means exposing the network. The structure of big oil, planning wars and think tanks, lawyers and ADL ghouls who protect business as usual follow the money. When Epstein died, his bank accounts emptied, and the FBI spent more time trying to silence the story than reporting on the magic bank accounts, as dirty money flowed into the campaign of Trump, the favors of old perverts, sour-faced monsters who use lawyer speak to confuse, intimidate, and limit the scope of the story. The affiliations. Alan Dershowitz and Ehud Barak were integral to Epstein's access to Ivy League girls, just as his British ruling class finders were a part of finding lost young girls to hoard in private Zionist dormitories. It's not about one man. You must find the connective tissue among the AIPAC shills of both parties, but about dismantling a system that hijacks democracy and silences the public. The first step: read William Blum, Whitney Webb, John Potash, Cleva Hava, Nick Bryant, Michael Ruppert. Watch podcasts of Matt Kim, Dave Smith, and watch out for anyone willing to kick down the pillars of polite debate. Have the courage to name the network and demand the truth. Talmudic predation does not mean that all Jews are evil. It means there is a mask war profiteers can wear. The suffering of W2 to never have to answer why our world leaders are able to act like Hitler without meeting the executioner at Nuremberg.